Hello students, today in your algebra class we're going to be talking about how to solve systems of equations with substitution. So before we start, let's practice these quick warm-up problems. This would be a really good opportunity for you to pause the screen, try to solve these two warm-up problems, and check your answers. Hopefully you've paused your screencast and you're just looking to find out what these solutions are. For problem 1, it says, is 3, 3 a solution to the following equations? Now, because we've done these before, hopefully you remember that all we're supposed to do is substitute these values for x and y in to both equations to see if it's true for both. If it's true for one and not the other, then it doesn't work. So, we're going to start with the first one, y equals 2x minus 3. Change our color really quick. We have y equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to substitute the value for 3 in for y. 3 in for x, and subtract 3. This is 3 equals 6 minus 3. 3 equals 3. So for this one, it is true. Let's try for the second one. Y equals x minus 1. Y is 3, x is 3, minus 1. Get 3 equals 3 minus 1. So finally we have 3 equals 2, which is not true. Therefore, 3, 3 is not a solution to the following equations. For example 2, it says find the solution for the system of equations. Now remember, when we're solving this graphically, we have to find out what m and b is equal to. So for the top equation, m turns out to be 2, and b turns out to be negative 3. For the bottom equation, your x turns out to be 1 because there is only one x, and your b is negative 1. So now we're going to graph. To be fair, we are going to graph the the top equation in blue and the bottom equation in red. So, to start, we're going to graph the top one by plotting the y-intercept. The y-intercept just happens to be negative 3. So we're going to go from the origin, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3. And that's our y-intercept. And then using our slope, which is 2, or rather 2 over 1, we're going to rise 2 and run 1. And now we have our 2 points. Now we're merely just going to connect the dots. Oops, let's change that back to red or blue. So we connected these lines. Now we're going to graph the bottom equation. Bottom equation has a y-intercept of negative 1. And a slope of 1. So we're going to go up 1 over 1. Now we're going to graph that line. And we'll find that they intersect right at this point right here, which just happens to be 2, 1. Therefore, your solution is 2, 1. Now, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to solve systems of equation using substitution. Now, for substitution, we're merely going to take one of the equations, set them equal to x or y, or have it say x equals or y equals, and substitute it into or replace that variable into the other equation. So I know that explanation may have seemed a little weird, so let's try example 1. Hopefully that makes more sense. Now, to start, we always want to find an equation that says x equals or y equals, if it's possible. In this instance, we see it says x equals right there. So, what we do know is that x is equal to 3y minus 27. That means x is interchangeable with 3y minus 27. So I said once we have that, we're going to take the second equation and replace it with what x is equal to. So now, anytime I see x, I'm going to substitute the value for 3y minus 27. So we have 4y plus 10, and look, I see an x, but we're not going to write it. We're going to replace it with what x is equal to, which in this case is 3y minus 27. So 10, and instead of x, it's times the quantity 3y minus 27 equals 120. So now we have 4y plus 10. Now we're going to distribute that 10 to everything on the inside. Therefore, we get 30y minus 270 equals 120. This gives us 34y minus 270 equals 120. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. We'll leave it. So now we want to isolate the y. So we're going to add 270 to both sides of the equal sign. We're left with 34y equals 390. Then we're going to divide 34 to both sides. And when we do that, we get y equals 390 divided by 34, which, because they both have a factor of 2, can be simplified to 195 divided by 17. So in the interest of time, we're going to solve just for the y, because this number seems to be a lot more complicated. But keep in mind that when you're given this on the test, the numbers will work out a lot cleaner, so you won't need a calculator. So let's try example 2. Example 2 says finding the solution using substitution. Now remember, the first thing we're going to look for is an equation that says x equals or y equals. In this instance, they both say y equals. So the way that this will work is, because they both say y equals, I'm going to write this specifically, or in a specific kind of way, so you can see what happens. So we have negative 4x plus 12.5 equals y, but y is also equal to 1/4 x plus 4. Now notice that both equations are equal to y. Now because that's the case, I can pretend the y is not there and just set them equal to one another. So this would leave me with negative 4x plus 12.5 equals 1/4 x plus 4. And to make this look a little bit easier, we're going to take 12.5 and convert that into an improper fraction, which would be 12 times 2 plus 1. So 12 times 2 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Keep the denominator. Equals 1/4 x plus 4. So the right side we didn't change at all. Now here's the thing. We don't like that it has fractions. We don't like the divide 2 and we don't like the divide 4. So what we're going to do is multiply by the LCD, or the least common denominator. And the LCD between 2 and 4 is 4. So we're going to multiply 4 to the entire equation. And once we do that, we're left with negative 16x plus 50 equals x plus 16. So now this problem should look a little bit easier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and keep all of the x's on the left-hand side, all the variables on the left-hand side, and all the constants on the right. So negative 16x is going to stay. The 50 is going to move So the opposite of plus 50 is minus 50. So we're now left with negative 16x equals x minus 34. Okay. Now the negative 16x has an x, so it's going to stay on the left. But that x on the opposite side needs to move. So we're going to subtract x from both sides of the equal sign. We're left with negative 17x equals negative 34. We're going to divide by negative 17 to both sides. And get x equals 2. So now that we know what x is equal to, we're going to go ahead and solve for y. Okay. Let me fix that really quick. There you go. Now, when we try to solve for y, you can choose either equation, the top equation or the bottom equation. It doesn't really matter. But what you do want to do is pick the one that looks easiest. So we're going to pick the bottom equation. So y equals 1/4 x plus 4. Now we know what x is equal to. X is equal to 2. So anytime I see x, I'm going to replace it with 2. So now y equals 1/2 plus 4. Therefore y is equal to 4.5. So now we know what x equals and y equals, and now we're done.